is Scott Ramsay. I've been here for 15 years. Yes, I was a naturalist at Spring Brook Nature Center for 10 years before I came to Wood Lake. I'm an interpretive naturalist. I teach environmental education here at the center. I started here as a change of pace. I'd been at Springbrook for 10 years and an opportunity opened up here, and so I thought a new resource, a different place to go to. It was fresh and kind of exciting to go to a new community and teach in a different atmosphere. The ecosystem down here is much different than the one up in front of where I was working at. Favorite part of the job is working with people, working with kids and adults, helping them to discover the wonders of nature. And I also enjoy working with the live animals too that we have in our exhibits. So I really like wildlife and people, and so it combines both of those. Normal day is teaching at least 2 classes each day. So that'd be field trip classes, you know, whatever grade level, anywhere from K through 8th grade, and then managing volunteers, whoever's coming in that day, as well as making sure that all the animals in the exhibits are taken care of. So that pretty much takes up my whole day, just doing those things. You need a 4-year college degree. So I have a bachelor's degree in environmental science, actually in geography, which encompasses a lot of the environmental sciences. Probably the oddest thing was one day, I mean, usually we get a lot of animals that come up to the windows, birds and squirrels and rabbits and deer, come up practically every day in the wintertime to feed on the corn and bird seed that we put out. But a few years back, we had a deer, a young deer, just a little button buck. He had antlers that were about that long, and that's actually called a spike buck. So I named him Spiky. And he was up here every single day, to the point where he would actually bed down, which is what they do when they're resting, right next to the building, like right next to the glass where people could watch him. And he was afraid of people. He wouldn't come near anybody. He'd run away as soon as somebody approached him. But he would bed down every day, practically, right next to the building. And I thought that was pretty neat. And we didn't really know why it was doing that, except we knew that coyotes were in the area, and maybe the deer was staying close to the building because the coyote wouldn't come close to the building. So for safety, he was staying here. But one morning, before we got to work here, he was bedded down in an area that was surrounded by, you know, right where you come in the front door, there's kind of a little dip in there in the building where he was outside, but he was surrounded by glass walls. And a cross-country skier came and took their skis off and just set them against the glass just a few feet from where he was bedded, and he got scared and he jumped up and he banged into the glass because he could see through it, and the person was standing in the only place where he could get out. So he hit the window, and that scared him even worse. He didn't actually go through the window, he just broke the glass, and then he went through the opposite window into our hallway, right into the building, saw the window at the end of the hall, and went running right past that turkey mount, through the glass there and out into the prairie, and didn't stop until he got down into the marsh somewhere. Well, he broke through, you know, basically 3 panes of glass.
Yeah.
He got a cut on his neck and cut by his ear, and I didn't know that until I actually, you know, when we came into work here, we found this huge mess, and of course the alarms went off in the building and stuff because we hadn't gotten here yet. So we came in and we found this huge mess, and there was a little bit of a blood trail, so I knew he had gotten cut. So I followed the blood trail out, and it led into the marsh, into the tall grass. And I actually, when I got close enough to where he was, because I kept seeing little pools of blood, he started bounding away from me. So I didn't chase him any further. I knew he was okay. But from that point on, I kept taking a little bit of corn out to him each day and just putting it in a spot out by there, and he would come and eat it. And after about a week, I really didn't think he'd ever come by the building again because because he got so scared breaking through the glass. But about 1 week later, he was right back up by the buildings looking for birdseed and stuff. And you could see the scar on his neck and where he had a little cut by his ear. And I think he had a little cut on his upper leg in the front too, but not very much. He could have been cut up really a lot worse. But the weird thing was, we had an evening program one night, and he was out by the feeder there, and I went up to get a closer look. It was really getting kind of dark out. I wanted to see if I could see his wounds and how they were healing, and I was like right next to the glass, and he came walking right up to the glass. Now this is the oddest thing, because I hunt deer and I've never heard of any wild animal doing this kind of thing. But he came up right to the window, and I put my hand up against the glass, and I'm not kidding, he licked the glass where my hand was. And that's just like the weirdest thing. And I was like, that can't be true. But he just did it that one time. And then now that he's several years old, he's left the park and we've never seen him again. Less paperwork. Paperwork is the biggest drag. Keeping records of everything and working on the computer. And I do not like working on the computer. Computers and I don't get along very well. So, but keeping, there is quite a bit of paperwork in, writing curriculum for the classes, keeping records on volunteers and things like that. And I have to make reports of those kind of things. So that, if I could somehow manage a way to do less paperwork, that'd be great. But that's about the only thing I can think of changing. The hardest thing is we also do public programs. And one of the hardest things for us is to think of fresh, innovative, but relevant programs that people would like to come to. Ways to get people more involved in the outdoors and to learn about nature. And we try to pick topics and subjects that we think people would like, but sometimes, nobody shows up because people are really busy. So being creative and innovative to try to get them to come out for one of our programs, that's probably the hardest thing, because you never know what the public's going to be really interested in. And I think as people become more busy and there's more things for them to do, and as they get more more things like video games and things to do at home, and books on Kindle and things like that, that there's just so much that occupies their time that it's more difficult to get them to come out and experience the kind of programs that we offer. So trying to find the right programs to get those people interested to come out, that's probably the hardest thing. Any of the programs where we have food, which is like our beekeeping program, where they get to taste the honey that we extract from the hive. Our maple syrup program, which we're teaching right now in March, where they get to taste the maple syrup or the maple sugar. Let's see, what's the other one that's really, the apple cider programs in the fall, where we learn about apples as seeds and how the plants produce those, and then we actually make apple cider out of the different apples. Any of the ones we offer food at, those are by far our most popular programs. We had a saw-whet owl here. Now, they're not uncommon in this area, but here at Wood Lake, we don't see them very often. And so the saw-whet owl, that would be a really cool one. Also, the opossum. Once in a while, we get an opossum living here, and that's kind of unusual. This is not really in their range, but because of our mild winters, they've been around more. And they're kind of a crazy creature, they're a marsupial, so they're kind of fun to see and watch. They don't last very long because the coyote or the foxes or the owls get them typically, but and eat them for food. But we have also had some really rare birds. This is a great birding site, and we've had some really rare birds that have stopped here in the past. And I'm trying to think now, the rarest, we had a magnolia warbler a few years ago, which is not common to this area. Trying to think what else. black tern. You know, we get terns every year typically, but they're the more common tern or Forster's tern. We had a black tern that came one year, totally out of its range. It's supposed to be out on the East Coast, so it must have got blown by a storm or something and blown in here. So those would be probably the rarest. I've only seen one salamander here in the 15 years I've worked here. Yeah, a tiger salamander. There's not many of those around.
Where was that? Was that?
It was actually crawling across the trail by our prairie.
Huh.
So I don't know where it was going, but
Right.
it was right out going across our trail out there.
Right.
Our goal is to provide as many recreational and educational opportunities to the public as we possibly can, and make it a quality experience. So our real goal is to manage the resource as a really good quality place to do the educational programming and recreational programming, and to get people out to experience it, so that they can gain an appreciation of the environment and maybe make a connection with the environment that maybe they didn't think of or feel before. Because the environment really sustains all of us, even though we live in cities and we get our food from the grocery store. The environment that's out there really sustains all of us, because we all need clean, pure water to drink, clean, pure air to breathe, and that's what unites us and all the animals and plants on the planet. Because of my love of the outdoors. I grew up in a family just in the western suburbs here that, we always went camping and fishing, and my dad hunted and I went hunting with him. So just those family experiences, camping, I just always loved the outdoors. And as a kid, I grew up playing outside all the time. And back when I grew up, we didn't have computers or video games or any of that kind of stuff. We had TV, but that was about it.
Yeah.
And we couldn't sit in the house watching TV. Our parents would say, get outside and get some fresh air. So I spent all my time outdoors, and I just really enjoyed doing that. And I loved animals. I used to catch frogs and salamanders and keep them as pets as a kid. So I think that just carried on into adulthood, and I wanted to try to teach other people about the environment so they could enjoy it as much as I have.